Noma nakuphi emakhaya emadolobheni nasokomplasta khona lapho ubukela khona SABC 1 sanimukele bekunene-ke ehlelweni lakho ilungelo lakho it's your right silethela-ke bukhoma lapho mahamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure mina-ke ngingisimphiwe Ngcwane asizingene sithi shwi endzabeni yethu namhla. Now, with interest rate hikes expected to be ongoing, so many homeowners are wondering if they should fix their home loan interest rates now to avoid continual bond repayment increases. And if you are one of them, you need to fully understand what this choice entails and the kind of impact it can have on your home loan repayments for an extended period of time. Kepha ngaphambi kokuthi-ke sikhulume kabani ngekuthi-ke kungakusita kanjani ukuthi kwente-ke ama-interest rates lowabhadalela ibond yakho ukuthi-ke angashintshi asisibuke nangombiko.
Abathengi abaninzi bazifuna bephansi koxinzelelo olukhulu eMzantsi Afrika. Isimo soqoqosho esingene kunye nokunyuka kwamaxabiso okuphila kuphelisa amathemba. Akusathethwa ngabo namatyala empahla ekufuneka ehlawuliwe qho ngenyanga. Abasahlawula amatyala ezindlu abalali buhlayo kuba izinga lenzala imali kutyala interest rate ngolwasemzini lithe gqolo ngokuya phezulu. Loo nto ithethe ukuba ininzi imali umntu aza kuyongeza xa ehlawula imali ayiboleke ukuthenga indlu yakhe i-home loan ngolwasemzini. Ingabe xa imeko injena kuthwani abakhe imkhanya nengcaphephe kwizinto eziphathelene nezindlu bathi abathengi abaninzi basenokukhetha phakathi kwezinto ezimbini. Enye ivumela umnini indlu ukuba xa i-interest rate inyuka okanye isihla imali ayihlawulayo imenxe ingatshintshi. Ukanti kwelinye icala umntu ayiyeke i-interest rate itshintshe qho xa itshintshwa nguvimbo webhanka i-Reserve Bank ngolwasemzini. Khumbula ukuba oko ukhethayo kunenzuzo kunye nokungalunganga. Ingaba yintoni ukuqala ekufuneka uyiqaphele phambi kokuba ukhethe eyona ndlela ikulungeleyo? Kuvuyisile Mdoda, Yilungelo Lakho.
Sibonge lijali likhulu kakhulu lapha-ke Vuyisile Mdoda ngosicophela-ke lo mbiko. Manje ukukhuluma kabandi ngendaba yethu asesimukele tivakashi lethu namhla sinadokotela Simphiwe Madikizela lobuye-ke ka-First National Bank siphinde sibe na Gerald Mondiyambira longuchwephesha-ke wetimali nekweluleka. Gentlemen, very good afternoon. Sanimukele ehlelweni sanibonani.
Always a pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure having you both join us. Dr. Madikizela, I'm going to start with you. Would you say that this is a buyer's market? Noma-ke ungasho ukuthi-ke i-environment ikahle ukuthi abantu bangathenga-ke imithi noma-ke tindlu?
Siyabulela kakhulu masibulise kubo bonke abasijoyinileyo. Ise-buyer's market mhlakazi sikhumbule ukuthi ama-interest rate asephansi even nangoku kuba kaloku besisuka ku-10% interest rate i-prime.
Yes.
Ngoku bekuqala i-lockdown. So manje sikhuluma ngo-8.25. Still isephansi because bezithotyiwe ngo-300 basis points sisuka ku-10 sahla saya ku-7. So zamane zinyuka kancane still zisephansi ise-buyer's market. Siyabakhuthaza abantu ukuthi abafuna ukuthenga izindlu ithuba lilo manje ukuthi bathenge ise-buyer's market. They are still very low.
Yeah. Gerald, do you also agree ukuthi if you want to buy property, do it now or else there'll never be a better time?
Look, I think this current environment, because interest rates are low, it means that your affordability, regardless of how much you're earning, it's more favorable.
Favorable to you,
so
yes.
If you are renting a property right now, it's probably cheaper for you to own one.
Yes.
In terms of comparative amounts you are paying. So if you want to get onto the property ladder, definitely there's still an opportunity. It's not yet that time for us to be panicking and saying interest rates are too high.
Yes.
Interest rates are still very low.
Favorable.
And also, remember, we're coming out of COVID. And COVID has made working from home more desirable. So if you're someone who wants to work from home, you can definitely buy a property. And if you get some good financial advice, you can even offset the cost of working from home on your tax as a cost. Yes, it's a business cost. The space you're using as part of your home, you can charge back to SARS. And actually, it makes it cheaper for you in terms of your bond payment. Because if you're using in one room, that room becomes your office and you're paying rent on the office. That's a deductible expense, which means at the end of the day, it comes back to you, which means that it's even more pleasurable and even more attractive to own a home right now.
That's a very, very valuable piece of advice. Now, back to the gist of our conversation today. Interest rates, between fixed interest rates or the variable interest rate.
The variable interest rate yona ingcono kuba it's cheaper than a fixed rate. A fixed rate is more expensive umahluko is about 2%. So uba ngaba choose a fixed rate, you're going to be paying more because a fixed rate generally is more expensive than a variable rate. So a variable rate is still better, is still cheaper than a fixed rate. So I would encourage abantu bakhuthaza ukuthi mabasebenzise a variable rate. Because a variable rate, my interest rate zisihla, imali oyibhatalayo nayo iyehla. Even those yenyuka manje kancane, njengoba sengishilo ukuthi they are still the very lowest in more than like 50 years. So a variable rate is much better. Mangaba ufuna a fixed rate, is it because mhlambi if ukhamekile kakhulu uyabona ukuthi u under strain, ama finances wakho akamanga kahle, kulapho ke ungathatha a fixed rate ukuthi ikuncede for ubudgeter, wazi ukuthi ubabhatala i5000 ihleli i5000 every month, noba ziyanyuswa interest rate imali yona ozoyibhatala wena ayizuchinja. That's the only situation is not advised to uthathe a fixed rate, but yona a fixed rate is expensive than a variable rate. Variable rate is still better, but in situation yako financial, if you're under pressure, then you can take a fixed rate for a cash flow to manage it for budgeting purposes.
I see. Gerald, do you also agree? I mean, does it really matter which interest rate option I choose for my home loan?
Look, I think it definitely matters. Remember, your home is your biggest monthly payment for most people, Mzansi. So it's important that you make the right decision.
Right.
A fixed rate is generally 2% more than whatever they're giving on the variable, okay? So if I go and fix it today, they won't fix it at 8.25, they'll fix it at 10.25. So for me to fix my rate today, it's basically saying that I believe that interest rates are going to go above 10.25% whenever it happens, okay? The better advice from me right now is that if you're someone who's worried that interest rates are going back to 10.25% and you're saying you want to fix it, rather than fix it, keep it variable, but pay the extra amount into your bond right now so that when it gets up there, you've already factored it in and you've actually made it easier for yourself in the future. Also, the argument also is about how much you're paying in terms of your home loan. For a property less than R1 million, 500 basis points or 0.5%, it's not that much for you. If your property is 3, 4 million, 5 million rand, it's another story. So for someone who's in a more expensive home, you need to do the maths to find out, is it better for you to fix it? Because for the more expensive homes, a 25 basis point shift or 0.25% is a lot of money. So those are the people who need to be more worried about interest rates. But for the vast majority of South Africans, it's still a buyer's market. If you are not a homeowner, this is the time to own your first home, and there's even incentives from government to encourage people into home ownership.
Now, gentlemen, tell me, for those who are hearing this for the first time, that a variable interest rate is actually much better than a fixed rate. And I know that some may be worried, Wutsi Ayman, it was a contractual obligation. Can I change the nature of my contractual agreement between me and my lender? Nangabe, for instance, being to say a fixed rate, a variable, is it possible to do that?
Yes, no. It's possible to change anytime. Change from fixed to variable. Even if you variable, you change a fixed rate, so you can change anytime. That is allowed. You just speak to your lender.
But a caveat. Dog is representing a bank, so he always says nice things. Banks always sound nice on TV, but when you go there,
it's a different story.
It depends on your conduct and your standing for your home loan. So if you are in arrears,
but then are you suggesting, if I'm in arrears or
if you're in arrears, the last thing,
ITC, I can't.
Well, if you're in arrears and you have not been conducting your home loan account well, they're not going to fix it because you're saying, I want to pay more, yet I'm struggling to pay less. So it's important that you manage your conduct when you're dealing with your home loan, because that's very important. Although it's a contractual obligation, they always look at your conduct.
I wonder though if why switch to a variable, because variable I'll be paying much lower, which means I can afford.
Well, very few people take fixed in the first instance. So very few, most home loans, the vast majority issued Mzansi are already variable. So very few people will start fixed. So for you to go fixed, you actually an added risk to the bank because you're voluntarily increasing your repayment, but your conduct obviously will be a factor in terms of whether that's approved or not. I'm saying it so that people, when the bank says no, it doesn't become a big fight. You must realize at the end of the day, it's a contract, but the contract is based on the initial terms. Anything you change in the future is based on how you've conducted it and your relationship with your bank.
Okay, and I suppose I would say decide to a variable whenever there's an interest rate change or a decrease of the interest rates, now it automatically decreases, or to have to go to the bank and then ask them to reduce it in accordance with the interest rate increase.
The variable rate, change automatically.
Okay.
Yes, so whether it's going up, change, whether it's going down, the bank does that for you.
Okay.
I can't need to go to contact, the bank will do that for you.
Okay.
Lenda I financial conduct, management of finances. It's an important point in general. It's good for you ukuthi ama finances wakho wamanage kahle ubhatala izikweleti zakho because it affect record yakho. Yabona whether unendlu awunandlu, whether fixed rate or variable rate, it's just a good practice. Sina nento ethiwa TCF, treating the customer fairly. So njengoba besishilo masiqala ukuthi if fixed rate is more expensive by 2% roughly than a variable rate. So in terms of TCF, treating the customer fairly, it is also our responsibility as a bank ukuthi we recommend you to take the cheaper one, which is more affordable to help you to qualify. Njengoba sechilo baba kune instrument ezinjenge FLISP for example ezincedisayo with affordability, but indawo sibalekele ukuthi ama interest rates ayakhuphuka, ipetrol iyakhuphuka, ama food prices ayakhuphuka, electricity prices ayakhuphuka, generally i-costs ziyenyuka. So affordability is a challenge. It will always be a pressure for our consumers. That's the reality of the matter. We're being honest here, and today to help you then, variable rate is even then the better option than fixed.
Ufile Gerald, banks are honest after all through the TCF, treating the customer fairly.
No, they treat you fairly, but I think that's why this show is important, because we're educating our consumers to know more and to make the right decisions. And right now, the general message is don't panic. Interest rates are still far away from where they were before COVID, and far away from where they were even a few years ago when they were much higher. You know, there was a time, I think, early to the mid-2000s, they were around 12%, 11, 12%. So we're still very far from there. It's still very much a time to consider home ownership.
Property. Yeah. All right, let's leave with the gentleman. Kwanya loke sibambe lapho ke bekunene sisishele lang setitolo hlala kanye nathi siyabuya leli lungelo lakho. Sinamukela babukeli ke lehlelo lakho ilungelo lakho, it's your right. Incingo tefike sadvuliwe ukuthi ke nabo ngaba ingcini ngolo methu namhlanje ngasishela icingo right now. The numbers on the screens right now ku 0117146918 noma ke ku 0117146919. Ungasithumela futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Ungaphinde usithole futhi ku Facebook. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngekuthi ke is it the right time to start changing your interest rates, you know, so that it adapts to inflation. Namhlanje we've got experts. Sina Gerald Mandiambira, who is a financial services planner or a financial advisory expert. Siphinde sibeke na Dr. Simpiwe Matikizela ubuya lapha FNB. Gentlemen, I want us to talk about the pros and the cons of the fixed interest rate or the variable interest rates. Dr. Matikizela, ukuthi yini ke advantages? Sesivile ukuthi ke it's much better to go for the variable interest rate because of its flexibility. It's not all doom and gloom when it comes to fixed interest rates. Yini ke advantages ayo?
Yeah. No, unyanisile fixed rate ama advantages akhona ku mangaba interest rates zizonyuka kakhulu. So mawufixa manje, then at least you lock yourself ukuthi okay uzobhadala a certain amount. So for budgeting purposes uyayazi ukuthi if you 5,000 imali oyibhadala every month, you pay 5,000, right? So mazinyuka interest rates wena unawari because imali ozoyibhadala every month I change the fixed rate. That's the advantage. It's for budgeting purposes, for to manage your cash flow yakho, ungabe na stress because you know what you are in for. That's the advantage. But that works only when the interest rates go up so much. Yes, because remember it's 2% higher, expensive than a variable. Right. That's the advantage at COI. And manje interest rates mangaba zisehla ayizukuhla kuwe i-fixed rate ihlala the same. Mazinyuka ayizunyuka kuwe i-interest rate ihlala the same because you have fixed it. But okubalulekileyo simasikhuthaza abantwini funeka uzame ukuthi isikweleti sakho usibhatale ngokusheshsha.
On time, yeah.
Yeah, just pay your debt as quickly as you can. Mawuthola imali extra mhlambi masithi uthola i-refund from i-SARS bungayilindelanga faka le mali kwi-bond. Mawuthola extra money, maybe bonus, faka le mali kwi-bond so that you reduce isikweleti sakho, you save interest rate, you reduce even the term of paying your house. That's why abanye abantu bakwazi ukubhatala indlu ye-20 years ayibhatale in 10 years, in 7 years, in 5 years, because they simply put more money there. So pay your debt as quickly as you can. That will help you as a customer.
Indeed.
It's a good practice.
Now, Gerald, Dr. Matikizela just shared the advantages of a fixed interest rate. And earlier on, we were just talking about the advantages, of course, of the variable interest rates. And I would say it's much better than the fixed interest rate. But one may argue that they would go for the fixed interest rates in consideration of the fact that the interest rate hike is always on an upward trajectory. Well, anticipating that it'll reach 10% and then I'll be still comfortable.
Look, as I said earlier on, if your home loan is of a higher value property, you would consider fixing it because there are a lot of inflationary pressures in South Africa right now. There's pressure on the rand. There's the Ukraine-Russia war, which is creating food prices to spike up. You know, so wheat is going to spike. Sunflower oil is going to spike because most of Africa imports it from Ukraine. And they are not going to harvest. Right now they're in winter.
Yes.
So if they don't harvest this summer, you can see 12 months from now, those things will be bringing inflationary pressure to us.
Yes.
Fuel is also inflationary. So look, we are not giving advice in terms of which is right, which is wrong. I think you need to sit down with your professional financial planning advisor and discuss it, because as Udok said, if you fix your rate now, you're basically saying, I believe interest rates are going to go beyond 10.25% in the next 18, 24 months, and I'm going to commit to it now. However, by committing to it now, on a 1 million rand mortgage, you'll be paying up to 1,000 rand more. Okay, so if you've got that extra money and you can absorb the cost of fixing it, you can go for that because you are believing that no, this is not the end of interest rates. They're going to go back to where they were 2005, 2006. You know, I'm at 12, 13%.
Yes.
That's your decision, but do it informed with your financial planner in terms of planning ahead. Variable is just easier because it's the current reality. And if you're already stretched financially and you don't have that amount to put extra, then variable has to be the only option you can look at at this particular moment. Doc also explained, you know, although he works for a bank, when you take out a 20-year bond, they want you to spend 20 years paying for that house. But the reality is you need to try and pay it quickly. On a 20-year bond at 8.5%, and you pay an extra 1,000 rand, you cut your loan term by 53 months, which is almost 5 years. On a 1 million rand bond, 8.5%, 20 years, and you pay an extra 3,000 or 4,000 rand, you cut it by 10 years. Which is why he's saying all the extra money you get, throw it. And remember when I said extra 1,000, 2,000 rand a month, it doesn't have to be every month. It's that bonus he's talking about.
Yes,
I got a rebate from SARS of 24,000 and I throw it into my bond. It's the equivalent of having put 2,000 extra that year in my bond. So that's the power of understanding how a home loan works. But generally speaking, the banks are also lending the money out. So they need you to try and stick to 20, 30 years. But because we watch this program and we want to beat them at their own game, we're going to pay more.
Yes.
Everyone watching today, pay more. Pay more into your bond. Make the bank start sweating and start thinking, okay, everyone is paying more. What do we do? Must tell Doc to go
and think
back.
of other strategies. Well, Doc, I know we've had this discussion previous times on this show about FLISP. FLISP on this FLISP program, does this kind of discussion help them?
Yeah, no kakhulu iyabanceda kakhulu iyabasiza. I-FLISP kunama changes enziweyo, progressive changes are good. I-quantum inyukile FLISP. Manje ungathola up to 130,000 FLISP. If you are earning at the lower end, 3501, 36,000 per month, you can get 130,000. So go and get a FLISP izakunceda ku-affordability. I-FLISP manje uyakhona uyisebenzisa for ucoverisha ama-20 costs as well. Kuba ne-costs ze-bond costs, transfer costs. You can now use the FLISP now. That is a new development eqale ngo-April. I-change policy. Now, installment sale agreement, like lease to buy, you can now use the FLISP. I-collective buying, esikhulume ngayo other time, ukuthi ningathenga up to 12 people together as siblings with your parents, next stock fails, you can now use the FLISP now, something which in the past being avumelekanga. So by all means, the FLISP is a very good instrument. Iyasiza kakhulu affordability. It's available. The money is there. There's a budget. We're sitting at 478 million budget for this financial year. Usukela nge-1st ka-April, uyoma nge-31 ka-March next year. So go and get that money. It is for you. Use it responsible so that you can get a house. If you are renting, buy a house now. Kule ndaba esikhuluma ngayo ukuthi indlu yakho uyisheshe uyiqede. We're happy with that as a bank. Then go and get a second house because we want to create wealth. Abantu baba ne wealth, baba nomtyebi. So we're an empowering bank. We're a bank with a soul. So you can have more than one property. It's not a crime in this country. You can rent the property out, generate income. You can also get into business so that you create employment because there's no problem unemployment in the country. So we're encouraging abantu to get into business, build houses, employ people, get skills, train people, the artisans, plumbers, electricians, carpenter, woodwork, tiling, all those kind of skills that are needed in the industry so that we can stimulate the economy and create jobs. So we're quite progressive in our thinking.
We certainly cannot overemphasize the importance of having a second property because, you know, you can use that second property to pay off your children's university fees.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Even the property, so you appreciate value. Kuna equity in that property. So you can leverage on the equity, the money that's available, and use it for educational purposes. Kuna re-advance on Aitola, kuna further advance on Ayenza, using the same property on Ayo, so that you can be able to do other things. So we encourage this because we don't want people to be in bondage. We don't want them to be slavery. We want people to be progressive, but participate in the economy and create jobs. That's what we're supporting as a bank.
All right. Please hold with those gentlemen. Let's take another break. Please do join us after this break. Welcome back. Khumbulani ke bekunene ukuthi ke nawe ungaba ingxenye lenkulumo yethu namhlanje uthi ushayele kucingo ku 0117146918 noma ke 0117146919 ungahlanganyela nase ke futhi na ku Facebook noma ke usithumele i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. You can share your story. You can share your experiences about having paid a home loan or a bond and whether you decided to change your interest rates to fixed to variable or the other way around and what have been the advantages and the disadvantages of doing that. And you can also ask questions. Mr. Gerald Mandiambira, Dr. Simpio Matigezela. Please pick up those phones and call us on your screens right now. We'd love to know from you. We'd love to hear your stories about your experiences, at paying my bond costs and, interest rates. It's still a buyer's market. Now, at some point we used to pay 10 plus interest, but manje it go 8.5%. And it still pretty much is a buyer's market and very much favorable to you. So please pick up those calls and call us 011-714-6918 and 011-714-6919. Now, gentlemen, I asked you if this is a seller or a buyer's market, and you all both concurred. It is a buyer's market because of the favorable interest rates. But asengithi-ke ukhona ke umuntu lo rentako nyalo say ubhadela i-rent ya 7,000 nakathi uya ebhange but for those who qualify for e-bond, installment is almost similar at 7,000. What scares people away from embarking from a journey of owning a property is the various costs, bond costs, registration costs, attorney costs, which are ridiculously high. So, Gerald, how would you advise people in that quagmire?
Look, if you want to avoid costs, buy off plan. So if you buy a new development, there's no, the costs are much lower. there is no transfer duties. It's not being transferred from anyone to another person. So if you're a first-time buyer, it's always better to try and go for a new development because you're avoiding the costs, and it just makes the affordability work better for you. Also, I'd like to congratulate Doc, because he's the first bank I've ever had telling anyone on TV to pay your bond early. Because, but he said it in a progressive manner, how it should be. Pay your bond early, finish paying it, buy a second property. You use the first property as collateral to buy the second and the third and the fourth. It's part of financial planning in that those properties can be used to pay for retirement, for school fees. It's just a different way of planning your finances. So that I congratulate him for doing.
Yes.
I also congratulate him twice on TV today about FLISP, because a domestic worker and a petrol attendant can own a home. There are certain people who believe they will never own a home. Your domestic can go and apply at FNB tomorrow. As long as you can vouch for their income, they can also apply for FLISP and get 130,000 rand towards their home from the government of South Africa, which is basically a backdoor way of getting an RDP. Because 130,000, you can build an RDP, but you are applying for a bond, but you are a low-income earner. Because FLISP was created by the NHFC specifically for people who earn between 3,000 rand a month and around 15,000 plus. Because they don't earn enough for a traditional bond, but they earn too much for a free home from the government. So that's the gap which that FLISP fills. So FLISP, Google it, and if you need more information, definitely, I know FNB are very good at assisting people into home ownership. If you're watching today and you're a domestic worker or you're a petrol attendant, you can own your own home. Do not be deceived into thinking that your home ownership is not for you. Definitely government will step in and assist you.
And through FLISP, they don't have to pay these ridiculous transfer and bond costs. And one may wonder, Dr. Matikizela, would see home loan repayment, can it incorporate all these bonds and transfer costs?
Yes, kunjalo. Ncedisana lapha kwi-numbers FLISP. So mawamkela 3,501 up to 22,000 income per month.
You
that
qualify.
is a FLISP category. You qualify, yes. Ukuphendula umbuzo wakho, kunjalo zonke lezi costs ziyakwazi ukuthi zifakwe kwi-bond ubhatale installment A1. Khumbula ukuthi ma first time home buyer uthenga indlu for the first time, sinaye offering lapho where awufunekanga ubhatale deposit. No deposit required. You can get 100% for a bond from a bank. And then
so the 100% bond, before you continue, the 100% bond, is it for new developments, for new homes, or old second-hand homes?
For both. Whether it's a new house or whether it's an existing house, you can get 100% approval for a bond. And then uyakwazi udlula ku 100% up to 108%. Which includes now lama cost besikhuluma ngawo. Lama cost where transfer cost, ama bond cost besikhuluma ngawo earlier, angakwazi ukuthi incorporate add as part of a bond lo apply from a bank. And if FLISP na njengoba sesichilo nayo iyakwazi ukuthi coverage those costs now. And njengoba besechilo umlingane wami, mawuthenga indlu up to 1 million i-value yendlu, akuna transfer duty kuyo, you save. So those costs then ziyehla, iyasiza kwi-affordability, especially kwi-new development, mawuthenga kwi-house entsha, kwi-development apho kwakhiwa izindlu ezintsha, uthenge khona, up to 1 million, no transfer duty involved there, so meaning you pay less. So siyabakhuthaza abantu ukuthi baze bathenge izindlu, singa-include zonke lezi cost, akho deposit efunekayo. The 108% is subject to affordability yakho as a customer. 100% available. Mangabe ufuna ama cost include, you can go up to 108% if you qualify, right?
Wow.
If mhlamba qualify, if FLISP corner, manje include this cost. So there's a way for you to be able to be assisted. So siyacela abantu ukuthi mabengesabi, mabangoyiki. Indlu investment. Awesaba uthenga imoto, why wesaba uthenga indlu? Imoto ayo investment. I-value yemoto iya depreciate, i-value yendlu iya appreciate. So maba create a wealth abantu. Because imoto i-value iya depreciate. Indlu invest for yourself, for your children, let's create wealth singabantu abamnyama.
Gerald, let me also join you in congratulating him again for having shared that information that all bond costs can be incorporated. Thank you for sharing that information with us. Let's take another break. Leli Lungelo Lakho, you'd want to be a part of this conversation, a very, very interesting conversation, especially if you're owning a home and if you're paying, ridiculously high interest rates. Make sure that you tune into Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back, you can still call us on 011-714-6918, 011-714-6919. These are studio participation lines. We are live and they are open right now. They are on your screens right now. Email consumer@sabc.co.za. Now, gentlemen, I want us to talk about the fact that whether people still know my interest rates are. Because maybe someone may have bought property like 5-10 years ago, and the only time they knew their interest rates was when they purchased the property.
Well, look, Spear, most people don't even know the interest rate when they purchase the property. That's so
Well, they just sign paper. They
only
just
sign.
papers.
So even most viewers right now, if I said go find your bond contract in your house right now, please bring it out before the end of this show, and can you phone with your interest rate? People don't know. So it's important. There's two things we need to cover here. Know your interest rate. Know your interest rate on any debt you have, because it will empower you. So right now, do call and do check those documents. Another important reason why you need to know your interest rate is, Spear, when you go for your first home and you go to FNB, you are the highest risk because they don't know you. You come from the street and they don't know, are you going to pay? But now you've been paying well. So remember, when they lend you money, your interest rate which you're given at the first time is based on your risk. So if you're someone who has never had credit before and we're building your credit profile, you probably qualify now for a lower rate because you've proven that you are loyal. You've proven that you are honest. So the bank, you can go and renegotiate your rate. That's another thing people need to know, that the fact that they gave you an interest rate 8 years ago doesn't mean that's the interest rate you deserve today, because that's the interest rate you deserved 8 years ago. Now you're earning more, or you've shown that you can pay your bond, you've shown you do extra payments. Go back to that same bank and ask them for a lower rate. And if they
Can you though?
Yes, you can.
Whether the interest rates have increased or dropped?
That's
immaterial.
That's immaterial. You're now renegotiating your rate because you've shown you're a good payer and you've got a track record. Okay? Also, if you didn't know this, if your bank is not playing ball and wanting to lower your rate, go to the next door bank because they want your business. Banks are conscious.
As in transfer your bond from this particular bank to this?
A bank will take it from where one bank, they switch. It happens all the time. They're also in competition, the banks. So they can see Spio has been paying his bond for 8 years and he's a good payer. Why isn't his bank giving him a better rate? Let's give him a better rate and take him. And that's what happens. It's called competition. So it's important. If you've been paying your bond at least 5 years, try and renegotiate your rate if you're in a better financial position. If your current bank won't listen to you, go next door.
Dr. Matikizela, from a banker's perspective, we have Vumelana and Gerald.
No, kunjalo. Khumbula ne fixed rate nayo. I-fixed rate ungakhona uyifixa for 12 months. Ungakhona uyifixa for 18 months. Ungakhona uyifixa for 24 months, 2 years. Ungayifixa for 3 years, 36 months. Ungayifixa for 60 months or 5 years. So you're not in jail. You can fix it for a certain period and you can then change from fixing to variable rate. So unyanisile, i-rate yakho iyachinja because the track record yakho, especially if you've been paying well, le ndaba yobhatala isikweleti sakho ibalulekile, must emphasize. Pay your debt, pay on time. Pay a little bit more if you can. Even 50 rands more makes a big difference.
Counts for something,
Even 100 rands more makes a big difference.
Goes a long way.
500 rand more, 1,000 rands more. Pay on time. If you can pay more, even better for you, because the credit profile yako looks good. When your credit profile looks good, you are more low risk for the bank, and we like you like that. And then we can give you a better rate, and you can qualify for better credit. So it's correct, what he's saying is true. Remember the show, we're here to empower the customers. We want to equip people babe ne-information. So know your interest rate. Mangaba interest rate ungasakhumbuli usign i-agreement, even your statement esikuthumelela sona every month or every quarter, interest rate yakho ikhona
reflect
lapha.
lapha, okay.
So if I money that original agreement, even your statement, it have the rate. If your statement was born, ungasfonela quickly, i-bank sikuxela i-rate yakho ukuthi ithini na kwi-system la information ikhona. You need to know what your rate is.
Okay.
And you are allowed to contact us and change your rate.
So what factors do the banks consider when deciding on a fixed rate?
A fixed rate, in fact, interest rate in general, sijonga ukuthi i-credit profile yakho ithini.
Yes.
Yeah, kune credit report le ufumana ku-institution ezinjengabo TransUnion, ITC, Experian, CompuScan, XDS, banikeza i-credit profile. And by the way, wonke umuntu entitled to a credit report that is free every year. You don't have to pay for it. So that's what we use. We use the credit report ephuma ngaphandle kwi-bank to check ukuthi how are you conducting your finances?
Yes.
How are you managing your finances? Are you good? Are you paying your debt? That influences the interest rate that you get, whether variable or fixed. That's what informs the rate.
Okay.
We look at the risk that we see from you as a customer. That's why kune low risk customer, you get a better rate. If awubhatal izikweleti zakho, you are high risk. So sometimes we won't approve you because you've shown ukuthi uboleka imali ongayibhatali. But if we're able to approve you and une risk, we're going to price for the risk esibonayo. Your rate yakho is going to be higher. But as you conduct your affairs better, then your risk goes down, then you can change your rate, you can get a better rate from us. That's what we do. The NCA, National Credit Act, requires of us to do that as a bank, who are responsible, sends a credit assessment, affordability for every customer that is looking for financing from us. That's the law of the country,
Thanks
and
indeed.
we comply with the law.
Thanks indeed for making that point. So I guess the most important takeaway here, ukuthi kumele uyazi interest rate yakho, ngoba ke it'll empower you to pay a much lower interest rate either from the same bank that you are with, or you can even take your bond next door to the bank next door. So it's very important to know your interest rate. Let's take on the first caller. Sinazanele lapha ke Elinesia. Sakumukela ehleleni sabona.
Yebo sanibona.
Khuluma nathi mama, kunjani?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
Thank you.
Okay,
Please, what's on your mind?
I bought from a new development, and then I've applied for a fleece. I've been approved, and the money has been transferred to my account. Right? So I have tried to call the bank to negotiate if they can reduce the installment based on what was transferred from the fleece. But I have been told that that money has been adjusted from what I bought the house from, like from the total amount that I bought my house with. So I just want to check.
Was it on a fixed or a variable interest rate?
Yes.
It was a fixed rate, ne?
Yeah, it's a fix. So Flisp has transferred the money, it has been paid. I have just been trying to negotiate to reduce the monthly installment from the bank, so that, because from that money that I have given by Flisp, but the bank doesn't seem to be assisting with that.
Okay, Dr. Matikizela, uyabuta ukuthi ngiliphi elibhange?
Standard Bank.
Okay. All right, Zanele, thank you so much for your call. Please stay tuned to SABC 1 Yilungelo Lakho, and Dr. Matizela will address your concern.
Yeah. Masichaze nje ngokukhawuleza ukuthi iFlisp isebenza kanjani. Isebenza ngendlela ezimbini iFlisp. Mangaba masithi uthenga indlu ye 500,000. Masithi bank iku-approve noba yeyiphi bank iku-approve for 450,000. Uthole iFlisp 50,000. So kumele ukuthi before i-bond yakho i-registerishwe, ama-attorneys, they will ask for that money, 50,000, ba-registerishe i-bond, because that transaction ayikhona ukuqhubeka without iFlisp. Mangaba uthole i-450 and uthenga indlu ye 500,000. That's one way the Flisp work. Kule situation yakhuluma ngayo usisi, it means you qualify for the full amount, 500,000 bond, wathola iFlisp. So a transaction iqhubekile registerishwe i-bond for 500,000. Then if Flisp is been paid after the registration of the bond, yafakwa kwi-bond account. So ukuthi balance yakhe ireduciwe from 500,000 yehla yayi 450,000. So i-discount seleyithole because ibalance yakhe yehlile. My balance yakhe yehlile, it means she's owing the bank less money, then she's paying a better rate and a better installment. So she's already benefited.
Okay.
You see, so you can't benefit more than once.
Okay.
That's why ukuthi mhlambe abenzi change even with the other bank akhuluma ngayo bese ibizela igama layo.
Alright.
It's because if let's be bhatalwe after the registration of the bond,
Yes.
meaning that ibalance yakhe yehlile already. Me check statement sakhe before iflisp na after uzabona ukuthi ibalance yakhe yehlile.
Okay.
So the benefit is there already.
Alright, okay.
Yes.
We'll take your comment, Gerald, in a moment. But for now, let's take a quick break. Sisike shelele ngasetitolo leli lungelo lakho. Siyabuya khona nyaka. Gosh, time flies when we're having fun. Welcome to a very final segment. Let's take our final caller. Sinatumelo lapha ke full solar. Sawumula ehleleni sawubona?
Sawubona baba ninjani?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Siyaphila.
Khuluma nathi, baba.
Umbuzo wami ukuthi baba ngiapplyile for a home loan. So they only approved 90%. So bengifuna ukuzwa ukuthi if list will cover the transfer cost and the deposit now.
Income yakhe ithini?
Okay.
Malini?
Income yakho ithini baba?
Between 35
Is it between
Income
3,500
yami
and 20,000?
gross yakhe per month malini?
Gross yonke is 22,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's within the bracket of FLISP. You qualify
Yes.
for FLISP. Yes. you
Okay.
do. Are you the
Okay.
first time buyer though?
Yes, first time buyer.
Yes, you qualify.
Okay.
And now
ngiyabonga.
dependent. Do you have a dependent? Mtana or anybody
Yes.
depending on you?
Yes.
Yes. You do qualify, apply for a FLISP. But then with 22,000, you get about 30,000. You're not going to get 130,000. It's on a sliding scale. The lower you earn, the more subsidy you get. The higher your income goes up, the less subsidy you get because it's pro-poor. So you still get, but it will not be the 130,000.
Right.
It will be about 30,000 at the top end.
Okay, Tumelo, we certainly hope that you've been assisted. Satsema utu sitagele. Thank you so much for your
Please
call.
apply.
All right. Now, Gerald, before we went to that break, we had a caller. Should installment decrease? Under FLIS program.
No, I think she's basically saying, I've got a deposit I've put into my bond.
Yes.
Because I put in money, she's expecting her monthly repayment to come down. No, it doesn't work like that. If in this case, when you pay extra into a bond, you reduce the period.
Yes.
So what she's done is, by putting in that money, she'll reduce her bond by 3, maybe 4 years, depending on how big a bond is, which is the same effect as paying a lower installment.
She still benefits
You
in any
still
case,
benefit.
whether the installment doesn't
Yes.
change, but she benefits in the fact that, in the sense that
Yes.
the repayment period has been shortened and she gets more value.
That's it. And everyone who pays extra gets into that confusion. They
Yes.
think because I've paid extra, my installment must come down. No, because you've paid extra, you've cut down the number of years. It's instead of 20, it's now 19, 18, 17, 16, 14, 15. You know, the quickest you probably clear a bond is probably 8 years if you pay extra payments. And then at some point it equalizes. You know, it doesn't really give you that much benefit to pay that much more.
Yeah. So, Baba Matukizela, can I fix my interest rates today for maybe 3 years and then decide 2 months later, I would say, I want to switch my home loan to another bank?
Yes, you can. Remember, as a customer and a consumer, you have a choice.
Yes.
You've got rights. So you are allowed to fix your interest rate today. You can do that. You can change your mind afterwards. You can switch the banks. It's your right to do so. And that's what competition is about. So contrary to popular belief, the more entrants come into the market,
The better.
The better it is for the customer, because that is progressive. The customer has got a choice, options as needs. And we're not afraid to say this as FNB, because we know that we are an innovative bank. We're always ahead, we're always leading. So we'll freely give this information. We're not shooting ourselves in the foot, because we know that we want to add value to the customer.
Yeah.
So the customer has got rights. We want to treat them fairly. They've got choice. They've got options. They must exercise those. It's their constitutional right to do so.
Okay.
And we owe it to them to give them the information, because the more information that they have, the better it is in terms of making decisions.
Let me ask you this, gentlemen. If maybe I get a promotion at work and my salary increases, can I renegotiate an interest rates to be lower? Can the bank say, Aibo, Pela, when you can afford to pay more?
No, that's the whole point. You can renegotiate at any point. You can go and
Whether
transfer.
I'm financially advantaged or not.
Yes, if you get a promotion, the advice is pay more into your bond, clear it quickly. Because it doesn't make sense for you to say, I'm earning more, but I want to pay less. You know, it's a balance. So basically, I would say the one thing mistake most South Africans are making is that the home is the biggest asset most people ever buy, and they don't consult a financial planning professional. Have an advisor when you buy a home, because they will guide you in terms of the interest rates, all these things we're talking about. And I also like the fact that Doctor was speaking at length about FLISP. If you're watching this show today, you're a security guard, domestic worker, petrol attendant, a messenger in the office, you can get a home loan. Go to your bank and ask. But remember, not all banks will know what FLISP is, because it's not being as widely used as it could be. So don't lose hope if you go to the branch and they say, we don't know what you're talking about. You can also approach the NHFC, the National Housing Finance Corporation, who manage the FLISP. Or you can
Just
go
briefly, I'm afraid we're out of time. So what's your key takeaway? So what is it that homeowners should know?
Homeowners, know your interest rate. It's a buyer's market right now. If you're a low-income earner, go for FLISP and shop around whenever you make any financial transaction.
Indeed. Dr. Matizela, the final thoughts?
Bangaba ufuna indlu, uyarenta, go and buy your own house now. Approach us, get a house. The rates are the best, they're still the lowest in many years.
Yes.
Your time is now, don't waste time. Go and buy a house. If you already have the first house, get a second one if you can. And get into business, create employment, create wealth.
And pay your installments in
And
time.
pay
And
on
make sure
time.
we are corner add a little bit more.
Yes, exactly.
Gentlemen,
Pay more.
we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Siyabonga. Hayi ke mbukele sesifika kanjalo maphethe lelihlelo lethu namhla ke. Thanks to our studio guests for their time. Sazayibonga kanye nani ngibabukele ngekuba nathi ke kuze kube manje asihlangana futhi ke ngesikhathi lesitako lapha ke sobe sinilethela ke lenye ke indzaba lethinza wena njengemthengi from Miss Mphiwe Ngcongwane and the rest of the team sesike nisale kahle. Do have a great week ahead. Cheers.
Mnganwa